Consciousness is a mirror test. It's being able to see yourself in your surroundings, being able to see and know the interconnectedness of all things. Daniel Northcott not only understood this, but he lived it, and he had a mission to share this message with the world through the magic of film. Sadly, Daniel passed away at the age of 29, and in his death, his sister, Erin, vowed to see the completion of his story through the creation of the film, Be Brave. This is Skull Babylon, and you're about to listen to a very special episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. Be Brave is a film being created that will be shared with millions of people across the world as a means to unite and inspire people with a knowing of unity, interconnectedness, and gratitude. Along with welcoming on Erin, we also welcomed on other amazing members behind the production of the film, including filmmaker and crowdfunding advisor Ian McKenzie and director Mickey Willis of Elevate Studios, a production team dedicated to helping shift consciousness. Through the conversation with Erin, we learned more about who Daniel was, both as a child and a grown man. We discussed some of the amazing synchronicities that were unfolding right in front of the eyes of the production team as they continued to work on the film, alluding to the idea that Daniel is still very much involved in helping guide this project from where he is. Daniel's story is our story, and you too can help support it, share it, and be a part of it. Check out the fundraising websites for the film Be Brave and do what you can to help raise awareness about this beautiful project. This episode of Paradigm Shift Radio had the most live listeners of any episode to date by far. Be sure to continue to check out and be a part of future episodes live every Saturday. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/paradigmshiftradio, share this episode with your friends, and enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone. This is Skull Babylon, and welcome once again to another episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. So, first of all, if everybody can just sort of confirm with me that my microphone is recording okay. So just a quick shout out to everybody who is in the live chat and joining us once again for a consciousness expanding episode. Now, this one is going to be very, very good. I can feel it already. I've been really anticipating this one, and I think for those of you who have been following and who know what we have on the show tonight, you'll understand it. And I think there's sort of an energy that's definitely going to be associated with what's going on with the show tonight. So on the show tonight, we will be talking about the upcoming film that's currently in the work called Be Brave, and this film is being produced by Elevate Studios, but it is the story of Daniel Northcott, who had his way of seeing the world, and he saw the interconnectedness in everything. And this is something that Paradigm Shift Radio is all about. It is about encouraging new ways for us to see and to shift our paradigm and to be able to see the unity and the oneness that we are, but not only to see it, but to actually live it. So tonight on the show, we're going to be talking about this very powerful film, and we'll give more information about it, who Daniel was, and the fact that part of the story is that he had this message that he wanted to share with the world, yet sadly he left this realm and he passed away at the age of 29, but in his death he left his sister Erin Northcott with thousands of hours worth of footage and the mission, if you want to call it that, to continue his story and to be able to share his message with the world. So we're going to be talking to Erin Northcott, his sister, on the show tonight. So that is very exciting, and we're not going to spend too much time going over the community news, and we will get into that, and we'll also be doing our regular group synchronized meditation as per usual. So again, for everybody who may be tuning into the first time, because we always have new listeners tuning into Paradigm Shift Radio, I'm your co-host, Brendon, aka Skull Babylon, and Paradigm Shift Radio is a show that we do every single Saturday live at 11 p.m. EST and 8 p.m. PST, and basically it is a platform for us to practice having conversations that we might not be able to have in normal spheres, so to speak. So it's really about us as a community coming together and to practice expressing ourselves and to practice using our voice and to practice getting a message out there to the greater community. And Paradigm Shift, again, just to give a little bit of a background, Paradigm Shift Radio is a branch of Paradigm Shift Central. So go to paradigmshiftcentral.com and you'll see there that Paradigm Shift in itself is a collective of communities across the globe that encourage open-mindedness, healthy living, and the evolution of consciousness. And we have past episodes that you can check out out as well, and there's a bunch of videos that I've put up there, and I myself am a filmmaker, and in that sense, that's why I'm really particularly interested in the show tonight, because there's a lot of parallels between the story of Daniel and my own perception as a filmmaker that I can totally resonate with. So that's going to be really interesting, being able to talk to Erin about some of those topics. So just in terms of recent community news, just to give you a little bit of an update, just as everything gets settled, and then we'll bring on Erin shortly. Just in terms of what was happening today, I myself actually just literally got back in earlier today from doing the Inspirational Expo here in London, and that was something really cool, and it totally fits in with this whole theme of unity. And the Inspirational Expo was something that I've been involved with for, this is the third year that I actually had a table set up, a table on behalf of Paradigm Shift, and I was actually on a panel discussion, and it was about the theme of the expo. In addition to simply being about inspiration, it was about small groups being able to make a big difference. So I was there representing Paradigm Shift Youth, and we had a chance to really connect with more people in our community, and just to be able to help people understand that yes, there is a community, because community is such an important thing. A lot of us, even people listening to the show, might spend a lot of time at home doing a lot of research on their own, and they're just looking for that other person to be able to bounce those ideas off of. So Paradigm Shift communities are totally about that, and you can start one up in your area. Check the ParadigmShiftCentral.com directory to see if there might already be one in your area, and if there isn't, then consider starting one, because you don't need specific permission to be able to do so. All you need to do is give yourself permission. So it's something to think about. And again, check out our website and you'll find out all the information there. And if for some reason you haven't yet, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio, and that's where you'll get information about the future episodes coming up. And also episodes, including this one, will be shared up on YouTube within 24 hours of the show going to air. So that's the gist of Paradigm Shift Radio. And like I said, the expo went great, and I'll probably put up some videos of that. And there was a new video that I put up, and you can find on the main website, and it was us in our college, in Fanshawe College, giving out some free hugs. So that was kind of a cool thing to do, because that's really what it's about. It's about going outside of our comfort zone and expanding our heart fields to interact with the heart fields of other people, to really be able to help them open up. So it's really quite a simple thing, but there's a lot of potential behind it. So let me just, oh, that's weird. I'm getting a strange playback in my, okay, so I was just confusing myself as I started my own blog was being talked for some reason. So again, shout out to everybody who's listening into the show tonight, and if you haven't yet, feel free to share the episode on your Facebooks, on your Twitters, on your Googles, and to get the message out there, because even though this is conversation tonight, this is also part of being able to help support the GoFundMe campaign not the GoFundMe, the general fund campaign, the Indiegogo campaign to be specific, for this Be Brave movie, because this is something that is it's a potential for the community as a whole to be able to get behind and to be able to support. So the links for that are in the show description, but if you need to check them out, and if you're listening to this just in the pure audio recording, you can go to the Indiegogo campaign for the Be Brave film at Indiegogo, so that's INDIE gogo.com /B-brave, or check out their Facebook at facebook.com/BeBraveMovie. So without further ado, we're going to bring Erin on to the air, and then we are going to go from there. And shortly after, we are also going to be bringing on Ian, and Ian is involved in the film, so we'll be talking to both of them and then continuing to move the show forward from there. So let's just make sure everything is okay. So Erin, if you're ready, I'm going to bring you on to the air now. Hello, Erin, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm right here. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, loud and clear. That sounds good. So, Erin, thank you for being here. And I know we've spoken briefly already, so it'll be, everybody's nice and comfortable at this point. Now, just as we sort of introduce the film, I'd actually like to be able to share a bit of the trailer, from the audio of the trailer for the film, to give people just a little bit of synopsis, and then we'll sort of segue from that. And also, the important thing that I really want to be able to do is that in this trailer for the Be Brave film, you hear Daniel's voice. And that's something that I just want to be able to share with the audience. So I'm just going to set this up, and we're just going to play this trailer real quick. So if everybody can just hold on 1 second. So here is some of the audio for the trailer of Be Brave, which is going to be coming out to the world and the universe near you in the future.
At 29 years old, the Vancouver filmmaker was told he only had months left to live. But instead of putting the camera down, he turned the lens on himself.
This is the story of my brother Daniel, his extraordinary adventures to 42 countries, and a choice he made in a Mayan cave that may have ended his life. Dan was an aspiring filmmaker. Over a 10-year period, he documented just about every moment of his incredible life. His video camera was like a microscope through which he studied his two favorite subjects, nature and humanity. He saw all living things as one brilliant and beautiful organism.
You are made of 1 trillion trembling orbs, and each one of them is made of 1 trillion more. So is the galaxy, so is the ocean, so is the one you love and long for. And when you look into their eyes, it is this truth that you will see. Circles and circles.
He's about 3 or 4 years old and starts to rain. He's turning in circles. He's going, "Mommy, Mommy, the stars are kissing me." This kid was a star child. He was connected.
All right, so there we go, guys. That was a bit of the trailer for Be Brave, and you can also check out the trailers at their website, so facebook.com/BeBraveMovie. But it's definitely some very, very powerful stuff. So, Erin, you're still with us?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, we are. Cool.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's, this. Let's just talk about the title of the film, Be Brave. Like, when I think of that, we hear the story about Daniel, and to just flesh it out a little bit more. Daniel, he traveled the world. He wanted to be able to, like, show the fact that life itself was a school, and to be able to, like, show the fact that there's, like, this interconnectedness everywhere. But the sad part of the story is that he was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 29, and now where we are is he has left you with all of this footage to continue this, and I think the title of the film, Be Brave, refers to not only Daniel's spirit, but also your spirit as well. Like, how do you feel being able to continue what your brother left you with?
Wow. I mean, the first word I think of when I'm asked how that feels is honored. That's the first word I always, like, when I first read his will and read the words that he wrote or asked to be written, that I leave my 1,000 hours of footage to my sister to oversee the completion of my film. Mm-hmm. I think, just incredible honor. Mm-hmm. That was his life's work. It was what he lived and died for. It was everything that he wanted to share with the world, and it was everything that he was. So to leave that in my hands was an incredible honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, so what I'd like to be able to do on the show tonight, because I mean, there's a lot that will be explained once people get to see the film, and I guess there isn't really a release date for that quite just yet, from what I understand. Because I mean, films do take a process. It takes hours and hours and hours of editing, and I know this quite well. But
oh yeah.
Explain, like, what I'd like to be able to do on the show tonight is just sort of like flesh out some of the things that might necessarily not come up in the film. So, who was Daniel as a child? I mean, you are his older sister. There's 3 years age difference between you two. Like, what was Daniel like as a child growing up?
Well, I think that he was a very unique child, and some things that stand out for me that would be unique is, I guess I remember being about, I'd say I was around 8 years old, and Dan was about 5, and my grandmother, she would go away once a year on these cruises and trips to here and there, and I think she was headed off to Australia, and that seemed pretty exotic to us, and there was 10 grandchildren, and all of us were asked what we wanted, and everybody wanted sort of a, like a koala bear or something, or and Dan just said, "Oh, I just want something from the land. Like, I don't know, like a rock, or can you bring me some sand? And my grandmother looked at him like, I'll try. Like, and that was sort of how he was throughout life. It was like he just wanted to be a part of everything, and that's why he collected so many things from all his travels. There were always like a little rock or piece of driftwood or an interesting dried seed, and that started very young. And then when he was about 8 years old, he declared he was no longer going to eat meat. He wanted to be a vegetarian. Oh, wow. And I remember my dad was a fisherman, and he, at that time, my dad had just stopped fishing and was on his way to becoming a lawyer. He was in law school, but we'd always been a pretty big fish-eating house. So my mom was like, and we really believed that we needed to eat fish, and I still eat fish. But Dan, so my mom was trying to bargain with him, and she got down to the point where he agreed to eat fish sticks, because I think in his mind that was like, is that really fish? Like, isn't that just some kind of variation, not really fish? And so, because I think my mom at that time was struggling to figure out what she was going to feed him, and after some time, she discovered tofu and started loading on making bean burritos and that kind of stuff, and even the fish sort of fell away, and Dan became a full-fledged vegetarian because that's what he wanted when he was 8 years old.
Wow, I think that actually says a lot about him right there, just being able to make that choice to be a vegetarian at such a young age. I mean, even the whole process of eating meat is something that, like, I myself am, like, dealing with now. So, I mean, to be able to make that decision at such, at that age, I think that says a lot about him right there, just being able to say, is it necessary for us to, like, to be able to survive off the suffering of another creature? I mean, do we need it? It's not. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what he was thinking at that time exactly. I don't know what inspired that, and I don't know that he knew. I mean, I know my parents tried to talk to him, because my parents were always very open and very interested in the things that he was thinking, or that both of us were thinking. So they definitely, I remember them asking him, okay, son, like they weren't. Oh no, anything. I mean, Dan came at them with a lot of stuff throughout his life, and the response was generally very open. Okay, son, could you explain that to me? Like, why are you feeling that way? What are you thinking? And that was kind of the response. And then, my parents wanted to support him. They were just worried about his health, because they just didn't know how to make sure he had enough protein because he was growing. So, it's I'm not sure where he was when he was thinking these things, but in a lot of ways, it was how he was just in general, where, I mean, we would find him walking home in the snow with no shoes on, and he'd have his boots slung over his shoulder, and he just liked the feeling of the snow in his feet, and he wasn't cold. So, and my mom should be worried, that his toes might fall off, but, over time we accepted that he was okay like that. Like, he just loved the world and the experience of life and the textures and the smells and just everything in a very, very full-on way. He didn't hold back. He's very passionate about nature and the world and the experience of being alive from a very young age.
Well, I'll just sort of say here, like, credit to yourself and the rest of your family for being able to support him in doing that, because I think, sort of we see a lot of that today, where, like, kids might do something kind of outside of the norm, and then parents are like, no, like, put your shoes back on. You're being weird. The neighbors are staring at us, or sort of thing. But to be able to let a kid follow his bliss, I think that's like a very, very powerful thing. And that, again, I'm sure we've all done that. Like, every single one of us has done that at some point. Sort of just like, I mean, even if it wasn't snow, just sort of, take our shoes off and run through a field and, God forbid if you haven't done that yet, like, I mean, stop listening to this radio show and go out and do it right now. But
yeah.
I think what I get from Dan, and you see this in a lot of his videos, and for anybody listening, there are several videos that are up on the Be Brave YouTube channel as well, including news reports that involved Dan back when he was still working on the film that he had at that time, and it's just this overwhelming sense of gratitude. To the gratitude to simply be alive, to be in this experience, and to almost quote him, something that he said in one of the videos. He said, you know, the miracle is walking on this earth right now. You know, and so many of us get caught up in just like externalizing it and saying like, I want this, I want that. But to be able to, again, you know, sort of bring it back to the now is such a key thing to do. So now I mean, not so, I want to give you a chance to sort of bounce an idea off that, but we do have Ian McKenzie who's ready to join us on air, and I know he's got a limited time on his schedule, so we'll do that. We're going to bring on Ian, and again, for those of you who, the name Ian McKenzie may actually ring a bell, and to give you a little background, Ian, I mentioned he's a filmmaker as well. There was a film that he was involved with called Occupy Love, and several of you have probably seen some of his work on YouTube. So we're going to bring Ian onto the film, and he's involved with some of the fundraising for this, and we're going to get a little bit more of a perspective on why this film is important to him as a filmmaker. So Ian, if you're ready, we're going to bring you onto the air now. Hello, Ian, you're with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right, cool. We got this loud and clear. So, Ian, literally just sort of like rephrase what I said. What is it about this film that you see as being so important?
Well, again, like you know, as a filmmaker and as somebody, I think who resonated with Dan's message. I mean, I'm almost 32 myself, actually. So, and Dan and I actually grew up in the same area of the world, right near Vancouver. So there's a lot here that, for me, you know, in many ways, I felt, it could have been a close friend of mine. This sharing the same passions, things like that. So on that level, I certainly connected with the project. But also, for me, what really stood out was his commitment to documenting his truth, even when that was, for instance, getting the diagnosis and understanding that, well, hey, like, I might actually die. And for him to continue filming, knowing that maybe this would be, say, a gift to the future, right? So that to have that level of sort of commitment, I mean, that still blows my mind.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because I mean, he was doing this. He was filming so much. He traveled the world. He went to so many countries over this period of up to almost a full decade, and then he was hit with this news. And a lot of people might just sort of be like, "Whoa, this is too real. I'm turning the camera off." But exactly. Dan kept it on, right? Like, that says a lot. And that's something I think me and Erin we'll get into a little bit more. Like, he didn't know how the story was going to end at that point. Like he in his mind, like, he saw that there was a very real possibility of him, like, having spontaneous recovery, which is something that has been documented. So, yeah, I mean, like, through the work that you're doing with the crowdfunding and stuff like that, like, first of all, thank you for helping do that and stuff. Like, what do you feel will be the benefit for more people to be able to see this film once it's released, and especially to an international audience as well? Like, that's a big emphasis on this, right? Like, you guys aren't just talking just Canada, like, in America. You want to get this everywhere, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, crowdfunding, I mean, the reason I sort of ended up there in that space as well is because for Occupy Love, we crowdfunded over 80,000 ourselves. And for me, that was sort of an experiment. We didn't really know, what crowdfunding, how it really worked. We just sort of were flying by the seat of our pants. And it worked. And so what happened was I went back over our campaign and I said, well, why did it work? And I kind of studied it and looked at the things that we just did, because intuitively maybe we felt that it was the right thing to do. And it blew me away, just, I mean, one, that we sort of accidentally got a lot right, but at the same time, how it really was, crowdfunding represents, I believe, a new type of relationship, an economic paradigm, where we can create things that aren't necessarily beholden to, often certainly in the media space, to gathering eyeballs, right? This is really what the most media that we have out there, certainly on TV, on the radio, all that is about getting a certain amount of eyeballs to then see products to sell you things. And crowdfunding, for me, turns out exactly the opposite, right? Which is that you with your shared passion, you can bring people into a project that you feel will have an impact in the world and get them to, give their energy, give their time, and give their money to have this thing manifested in the world. So for me, it's really a representative of what I believe the emerging new economic paradigm. And we're not quite there yet in terms of, large-scale integrative change at that level, but I think it's coming. I mean, one of my other short films was called Sacred Economics, which was based on the work of Charles Eisenstein.
Right.
And he lays out a very clear path to a new economic future. And for me, any crowdfunding win is a win for all the crowdfunding projects.
Yeah. Like, I think it's important for a project like this to be something that is very, like, grassroots, for something that the community can look at and say, like, hey, like, I was a part of this. Like, I helped bring this into fruition, so to speak. So I think, it's totally cool, and it's awesome to be able to see that, to be able to, like, create the art that we wanted, to be able to tell our story, without having to depend on Hollywood. Like, we can do this as the artist. We can tell our story. We can help tell Dan's story, and, like, Dan's story is, like, our bigger story, sort of thing. Now, Ian, just before I guess we let you go, because I know you gotta leave soon, you've been working with Erin. You guys have been doing some videos that we've seen posted up in the last few days related to the Indiegogo campaign. What are your thoughts on Erin? I mean, obviously you've gotten to know her a little bit. Like, what do you think about her, just in what she's doing in this project?
Well, she's listening, so that better say something good.
I know. I'm like, wow, putting Ian on the spot.
No, I'm very happy.
All positive.
Yeah, I'm very happy to say. I mean, Erin I was struck immediately by her commitment and her focus on bringing this into the world, and I think it's this deep love that's clear, obviously, for her brother and for her family, but also to the message, and in the sense of, I mean, it's hard to carry a burden for a long time, right? And I think that often many people don't, right? They don't carry the burdens of other people because they feel that it's too much of an imposition on them and their time, and they just want to do their own thing, live their own lives. And I think that I was very struck by how Erin took on this burden in the sense of this project that Dan left her. And I think that she knows that in itself is it's shaping her own life, obviously. And at the same time, I think that, as much as she really wants to see this in the world, and we will see it in the world because of her work, she's also going to be happy to put it to rest and to really say to Dan, I did it, and I love you, and now I have to live my life. Yeah. So I've been really impressed with Erin.
Yeah, this entire project must be very cathartic for you, Erin. Is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now I'm in the determination phase. So I'm just determined to make this speak as loud and wide as possible. I really want to get Dan's message out as largely as possible, and I want to speak the truth of his message as much as possible, and I guess that's why I'm so lucky to be united with Ian McKenzie and Elevate Films, like Mickey Willis and his crew of amazing people that are just really, really interpreting Dan beautifully. They really understand him. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a blessing, like, to be able to do this, to be able to carry forth a promise like this. And it's funny that I call it a promise because I never promised him, but I did. There was times where I was like, don't worry about your film. I've got that covered. Like, just focus on healing yourself, But, and my mom promised him, too. She said, because he worried one day, one day near the end of his life, he said, I'm so worried that all my tapes and everything, my whole life's work is just going to end up in a storage box in the basement. And my mom said, oh, no, I promise you that won't happen, So it does feel good to be on the road to that, but I will feel really good when this is being shown around the world. Yeah,
and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So now, Ian, do you have to go? Do we have to let you go?
I wouldn't mind tossing in one more little thing that struck me. I think that as Erin was talking, that I started recently also doing work with a man named Stephen Jenkinson, who's a really incredible storyteller and ceremonialist, and he does a lot of work with grief and death and dying. And he said he spent hours and hours and hours by the deathbed of dying people. And he said to them, or he said from this experience, that often what we think the dying are in fear of, he said, is not true. What we often think that people are afraid of when they're dying is pain, right? We say, oh, everybody says, well, when we die, I want it to be quick, right? I don't want to suffer. I don't want to have pain. And what he said is a lot of medicine now is around pain management, is what he calls it, where, we take care of the pain through, say, drugs or things like that. But then he says, when the pain's done, when the pain's taken care of, what's left? And he said, the thing that people fear most is that they won't be carried after they're gone.
Yeah.
And for me, when Erin was saying that Dan, this is my life's work, will it just be sitting in a locker? Right? That's the fear.
Yeah.
And here we have this beautiful caring of Dan and his message after the fact. And so I think that's the only thing I think that we can ask or that we can do in this scenario is to carry on their work and their message, and in that way honoring in their life.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, Ian, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll let you go now. Is that you got to be on your way? Yeah, cool, man.
Thanks so much, Ian.
Hey, Erin, thank you.
Again, so Ian McKenzie and his website, you can check out more of his work at IanMack, so IanMack.com, and do that. I mean, you've been working on stuff for quite some time, man, and I remember seeing it for going back to the Occupy days. So it's cool to be able to sort of cross paths like this, and especially for a project like this. So again, Ian, thank you for being here, and namaste. So.
Great.
Yeah, check out his website. He's amazing.
Okay, I better get going here. My face is red. So. All
right,
guys. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Bye. There we go. Cool. All right, so make sure Blog Talk's still working okay. All right, Erin, you're still with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Still with us. All right, cool. Now, we were talking about earlier, there may be another person who might be able to join us on the air, and you mentioned him earlier, Mickey from Elevate Films. And first of all, elevate.us is the website for Elevate Films, and you can check out some of their stuff there. And just to give you guys a little bit of a reference point, a lot of people have probably seen that video, Stuff New Age Girls Say, and some of you might know of Mahanomi. He does work stuff too. That's Elevate. So, I mean, it's those people who are working on this project, which is a very cool thing. So you know that they're serious about the whole, consciousness raising mission that is associated with Dan's project as well. But what I was going to say is that Mickey, the director, the producer of this film, he may be joining us on the air if we can somehow get in contact with him. So for anybody who might be listening to this, who actually, knows Mickey personally, well worth here on air, try getting in touch with him. Shoot him a text, give him a call, be like, Mickey, you need to get on air for Paradigm Shift Radio, and join in on the conversation. So Patty Universe, if you're listening, Mahanomi, if you're listening, throw a football at Mickey's house, because I know you're close enough, and try and get in touch with him and see if we can get him on air later in the show. So I think that will be exciting, because there's a big part of the story that I'd like to get into, and I know he has some interesting perspectives on it, and that's the whole idea that part of the story, and if people have watched the full trailer, it explains this. Part of the story was when Dan went to visit it was a Mayan burial site. Was that technically what it was?
No, it's a yes and no. There's it's a cave system. It's the largest cave system in the Yucatan, and within those caves, there's 4 small burial chambers, which are they're all naturally existing within the cave, but that the Mayans used as burial chambers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I was just going to say is part of the story is that Dan took an artifact, if we want to call it that. It was what he recognized as being a spherical bone, and Dan always had this fascination with spheres and circles. And again, if you watch in the trailer that we heard at the beginning, he said, circles within circles within circles. And this refers to his awareness of like the interconnectedness of everything. So part of the story that this whole thing and how it played out was that Dan removed this item from this site, and in the process of doing so, the people there said that, like to do such an act, to do such a thing could have like very negative energy associated with it. And lo and behold, the rest of the story, as it unfolded, Dan was diagnosed with leukemia, and then, this whole thing just sort of unraveled in that sense. But where Erin picked up was that with Elevate Films is that they actually took this artifact back to the site to place it back there as part of Dan's wish. Now was this, like, did Dan express this? Did he say, like, Erin, I want you to go take this back there? Did he say that to you?
No, because at the time, he wanted to take it back himself.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, when he realized that, so when he took the sphere, when he initially took the object, he was told specifically that people that take these things get fevers and chills, and often either their life is ruined or they become so sick that they die. And that was on film, spoken by the Mayan guide that was taking them through this cave system. This was a very sacred place to the Mayan people. This is where they hid during the War of the Castes. They hid from the Spanish down there. It was a place that when things were all good in Mayan society, they did a lot of rituals. When things went wrong, they did rituals too, like when they wanted more rain. And so it was a very spiritual place for them and a very sacred place. It was also a place that when they considered like the womb of the earth, because you went into the earth. So Dan was warned specifically not to take anything from there, and I think he was trying to find something insignificant because it was so important to him that he take something, because he always took something.
He always did that, yeah.
Everywhere he went. So the idea that he couldn't have anything to remind him of this place, and when you climb through these caves and through the tunnels that link the different sort of cave systems, you come across a lot of different little, there's bones in there. There's human bones, there's bat bones, there's stuff in there, right? There's little stones. And so I think that he didn't take that object in spite. He was warned not to take it.
Right.
And so, and that we later found out, according to the Mayan people, is probably why they believe he became ill, is because he was warned. Had he taken it and not been warned, it would have had a different intent. But to them, because one of their people warned him, it was, that object was still charged with the initial charge that would affect him if he took it. And so Dan, when he was sick, was trying to investigate every possible reason why he was sick. And one of the reasons that came to him shortly after he was admitted to hospital was, oh my God, that bone I took, oh my God, and I have leukemia, a bone marrow cancer.
Right. Yeah.
And he thought, and he told me about it. He called me to his bedside and he's like, you have to find that bone. I have it on tape. This is what it looks like. Please go and look through all my things and find it. And he's like, his words actually were, it's in the same box as the pot handle from Syria, and I'm like, fuck. So I went on my own initially, but then after a while I realized this was way over my head, like to go through all his things, because he just had so much stuff that he'd collected. So we had a search party looking for this. We included family and friends and everyone coming to help, go through all his things and his storage locker, everything. And so because he was desperate to return it, in his lifetime we did not find it. And it wasn't until 2 years later that we were unpacking my mom's stuff. My mom and Rocky, her husband, were unpacking their items from when they retired, and that's where we found the bone for the object.
Yeah. Well, that's it's the
best thing to
really
do was to return it. You know, so it wasn't that Dan said, you know, you have to. It was just I knew how badly he had wanted to return it.
Yeah.
So it seemed so obvious, and that compiled with Felix, his travel partner. When I told him that I found it, when Dan took it, he didn't tell Felix that he took it because Felix lived right near the caves for 8 years. He lived in that same area, so he very much was in tune with what Dan was being told and really didn't want Dan to take it. So Dan kind of just put it in his pocket and didn't say anything. So Felix also really, it was very important to him to return it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool, and like we said, that is part of the story that you'll actually see in the film, is a process of you going back with the crew and bringing back that object to the site. And like I said, maybe we'll get into a little bit about that if Mickey is able to join us, but if not, we'll still get into it at some point. But just one thing that I wanted to mention, and we'll sort of bounce around a couple topics here. You know, I said this, like Dan always had like this fascination with circles. Like he saw the circles as representing like the microcosm and the macrocosm. Like he understood that. He understood that, like, you know, like how cells sort of evolve on a small scale, and like we are made up of those cells, and like we are like the cells within a universe, and it's all expansive in that sense, and we are essentially like all made up of the same thing, so to speak. So, you know, part of that interconnectedness. But what I was just going to say was, interesting synchronicity in terms of us doing the show tonight, and I'm not sure how many people actually realize this, but tonight is actually like a full moon. So, I mean, if you were to like look up at the sky right now, there is a big fat sphere floating above us. So I think that's actually like really fitting and something that I find really cool. And also, you know, like the idea that like full moons sort of help like resonate energy. I think that's really appropriate for what we're sort of talking about on the show here today. And that's actually the next topic that I'd like to get into. And this is something we sort of touched upon when we were talking off air, is this idea that Dan may not physically be with us, but he still is very much still with us on, you know, like if you want to think about that spiritually, you know, even we've talked about stuff on the past episodes of Paradigm Shift Radio, like how consciousness exists beyond the body, and this body is just a vehicle, and there's like higher dimensions, and from these higher dimensions you can still influence and interact and even communicate with people on this density in some way or another. And I'm just really fascinated because that's something that I'm familiar with. Like, just to give a little bit of background for the people here who are listening, there was a movie, there was a documentary that I myself worked on, and again, very similar parallels. It was actually about a Canadian soldier who was killed in Afghanistan, and the soldier, like, he was like the same age as me, and I didn't know him prior to this happening, and it was all just a matter of things falling into place. And with my own experience editing this film, and the film is called If I Should Fall, and if you go to ifishouldfall.com, there's the trailer for that as well. But my own experience through working on the editing for this film was the fact that the soldier, Mark, his name, he was still very much with me when I was like doing this whole editing process, when we were still setting up interviews. Like when I was editing, I felt like he was like on my shoulder, still like helping guide things in the right direction, helping the story unfold more. So I think what is happening here with Dan, and I think this is the amazing part of the story, and this is what makes it unique, is the fact that Dan is still very much involved with this project. Like, is this something, like, how do you feel about that, Erin?
Well, I think that it's so hard to prove these things, but you can feel these things. Like, you can feel the closeness, and you can feel sometimes there's things that make me go, like his favorite numbers will pop up right at the moment I'm trying to make a decision, like, or I'll see signs that make me feel like he's approving of something. And I think that I think there's so much we don't know, and whether we are just a soul that remains in that same soul but just without a body, or whether we actually become a big part of a collective unit of souls that are, it's so hard to know. But I definitely do feel very close to Dan as I do this, and I'm getting to know him in a different way as I go through his footage, and as I have to, as people ask me thought-provoking questions about him, and I do hear that definitely Mickey Willis has said a few times that he's really felt like Dan's with him on this, and there's been times where we've wanted to upload a movie or like a clip of his or something, and it hasn't been maybe the music wasn't what Dan wanted or something like that, and we just couldn't upload it, and then we put it to a music that Dan liked, and all of a sudden just uploads like easily. So there's these things, and you don't know what's controlling it, but the mystery is beautiful unto itself.
Yeah, and I think that's something people will really resonate with, because like without needing to get religious about this, for certain people they do have this, if you want to call it a belief, if you want to call it a faith, they do have this experience that like when loved ones passed on, they are still very much with us in a lot of ways, and even just through the subtle energies, and like you said, even the way how symbols show up. I think symbols is like one of the key ways how they can communicate to us, and that was something that I found through my own experience. Like I woke up with a particular song in my head, and then I ended up using that song in a part of the video that I made for the movie, and it turned out that song that I used in the video was actually like the song of Mark and his girlfriend, and his family came up to me, they're like, how did you choose that song? And I was just like, I just did. I woke up, it was in my head, and they're like, that was Mark and Mary's song. And I was like, whoa. And like it was like just like you could like at that moment I was just like, you can just sort of feel it and just like, okay, like something's going on here and stuff, right? So we have that opportunity, and I don't really want to get like too personal about it and stuff, but even within dreams there's a lot of opportunity to sort of communicate with loved ones within dreams. Now staying inside of your comfort zone, like have you dreamt much about Dan since he's passed on?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely have. I've had, the dreams have been, I would say, mostly processing dreams, where I'm processing the loss of him. So I'm not sure that I'm being communicated to as much as I'm processing. Like, I have a lot of dreams. They've kind of dissipated in the last year or so, but I used to have a lot of dreams where I was in a panic trying to find him, or he turned into like a gnome and we lost him, or different things, or where he looked very sick in my dream and I was trying to save him, or so working through a lot of emotion around wishing that I could have somehow saved him, or the loss of him, not being able to find him, and wishing that he was still here with me, I think have been the majority of my dreams. I haven't had dreams particular to the film as much as I have just, I do feel that Dan is very connected to the people of Elevate, Mickey and Akira and Chris, and I do think that they really are getting to know him through his footage, and I know that there's times where they've said they really feel his presence, much like what you described, where they just felt, oh, this is the right song, or they just had this experience where it felt like they were being told to do something a certain way, and there's definitely a constant flow of love that is happening towards this film through them, and I think that could be Dan's love for the world channeling through them, because there's a lot of love going into this project
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, from, personal experience, like when you're editing is such an interesting channel for energy to sort of be able to flow through you, and you add in those right cues and things just seem to sync up, and you look back and you're like, wow, I can't imagine that happening any other way. Like in theory, the film that those people at Elevate are working on right now, one way of looking at this is the fact that it's already done. It's just a matter of themselves lining up with that reality and moving themselves through it. So, I mean, you can, people listening, take that metaphor and apply it to your own life in whatever way you need. But seriously, editing a film is a really magical thing, and especially with you're working with footage, something so personal like what Dan has graciously given us, and we are so happy to share. Now, I'd just like to remind everyone who's listening to the show, part of the fact of putting this show together is to tell this story, but also to encourage you, the audience, to get involved with the funding campaign for this. So if you haven't yet, or even after you've done listening to the show, check out the Indiegogo page. So again, indiegogo.com/be-brave, or go to facebook.com/bebravemovie and donate if you can, because every single bit definitely helps towards creating this project, and not only creating it, but being able to share it, and to be able to share the message of what it represents, and that is unity, but not only understanding unity, but being able to live it as well. And we were talking about this off air, and we'll probably bring around this a little bit more, but Dan wants people to understand unity in the same way that right now we know that the world is round. He wants people to understand the interconnectedness of everything in the same way. Like you can prove it with a science, and we are doing this more and more each day. But to have that common understanding, I think that is something that we're moving closer towards. And Dan sensed this. He understood it as well, and he lived it. So right now we're actually going to bring on Mickey. We do have him in the queue, so let's do that. Mickey is the, I believe, director and also producer, executive producer, would be one of the multiple titles. But Mickey is, again, with Elevate. So elevate.us is the website, and we're going to bring him on, and we'll just go from there. So Mickey, if you're ready, we're going to bring you onto the air now.
I'm ready.
There we go. Hey, Mickey, you're with us. You can.
Hey, thank
Hi,
you
Mickey.
so much. Hi, Erin. You're doing a great job. I've been listening to the whole show.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I've been stuck in the queue sending text messages back and forth saying, "Let me out."
All right. Well,
yeah,
we got
great
you.
show.
So, thanks,
you.
Mickey.
Thank you. I'm actually in Santa Barbara right now. I'm in the middle of watching a premiere of another amazing Canadian filmmaker, Rob Stewart, who did Sharkwater, and premiering his new film Revolution right now, and he's a good friend.
Cool.
And so as I'm listening to the show, I'm in the back of the theater actually watching stuff about being interconnected in cells and all of this stuff going on. So it's just it's an exciting time to be in the world of film right now.
Very cool, very cool. All right, so now Mickey, I'll just sort of ask you almost the same question that I asked Ian when we had him on earlier. Why do you feel that a film like this is something that is deemed so important by your team at Elevate to be able to share it with the world? What is it about this story that you see as so important?
Well, it's just really an incredible opportunity for all of us to speak into all of our life missions, really. The film is an amalgam of everything that is most dear to us. You know, the subject of interconnectedness, of course, and singularity. Also wrapped within a very intriguing mystery that will appeal to the mainstream audiences. You know, that we've been involved in transformational media for a long time, and our objective is always, you know, how do we create films that cross the bridge, you know, beyond the choir into the people that are just looking for some good entertainment, and give them a little dose of higher learning at the same time. And this film is an incredible vehicle for that. What Dan's created and what unfolded for us in front of our cameras in Mexico was, you know, that in itself just it took the plot to the next level. Really, so many more dimensions beyond what we knew where the story was going to go. And so we really have a very commercial, appealing, beautiful mystery that unfolds in front of the camera, laced with very, very deep and profound, very important ancient wisdom and very digestible information that all of us are looking for right now, just of ways that we can be more connected with each other and really co-create a world that we all choose to live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now you mentioned that there are some aspects to the film that will definitely, I think it will create a hook for the audience, and actually be able to want to set this up now, because I referred to it earlier, and we'll get more into the whole fact of you guys going back to the Mayan site. Now, the sphere that Daniel found, as was revealed in one of your video vlogs, it wasn't, Dan thought it was a bone, but he wasn't sure. But as you guys found out, but have yet to reveal, it wasn't a bone, and in fact was something so much more meaningful that in a lot of ways helped tie together the whole picture. So, I mean, without, again, there's no spoilers here, so for people, if they want to find out what that object was, you're going to have to watch the film for yourself. So, now, Mickey, again, what was that experience of going back to that site? What was that like for you? Tell us about some of the synchronicities that occurred, that you can, at least.
Well, we were, as everyone went into the chamber, I stayed at the sacrificial place where a lot of the bodies were actually sacrificed and then taken deeper into the burial chamber. I stayed at the sacrificial location with Tanya, Erin's mother, Dan's mother, because I had a very deep intuition that something was going to unfold that would be very, very important. And Tanya and I have been connected through lifetimes. It's really hard to explain, but we have a very deep connection. And the moment we met and she came to Ojai and looked into my eyes, she just started crying, and I it's hard for me to explain how much I love her, and I felt like it was so important that we had some really profound, intimate alone time. So I stayed at this particular place, and what ended up unfolding, we didn't fully know until 2 days ago. And I haven't even told you this, Erin. It was pretty miraculous. As we were going through footage, our editor, Chris Bradley, had headphones on, and I'm working with our other editor, Akira Chan, and we're on the other side of the room, and Chris just goes, "Oh my God!" And he takes off his headphones and he spins around in his chair, and he said, "What was happening inside the chamber, Tanya was speaking about as if she was watching a monitor of what was happening, literally channeling the information that we were learning in the chamber. She was speaking about when you were interviewing her, and he said, this is just going to intercut so perfectly. It's going to be hard to believe that this was not something that was coached or set up, because she was literally coming up with some philosophies of what she felt that the object was, and what Dan was thinking, and the love for her daughter and for her son, and how hard it is to lose a child, and all of these things. I have a 1.5-year-old baby, so she was speaking to me, knowing that I'm a new parent, and just really speaking from her heart about such intimate subjects as this, and it just turns out that everything she was speaking about was almost in perfect sync. And I bet if we had stopwatches to measure it, that it was probably in perfect sync with what was going on inside the actual chamber itself.
Wow. And
so it's, and all of these things, just continue to unfold, really, truly magical. As I was listening to the show, Erin was speaking into how much Dan does seem to make appearances in many, many ways, and we feel his presence. And one of the other very incredible things that happened, again, while the group was making the return of this object into the chamber itself, was we had propped open a computer screen, and to prepare for when the group came out, we wanted to show the guide some of the old footage that Dan shot 4 years ago, just to really have him see himself on the video and see if he remembered these moments. And when we popped open the video, and I clicked on the first file that I could find randomly out of 200 files or so, the image popped up on the screen, and it was, if you picture this, I hope I describe it enough so that the listeners can understand what I'm saying. When the screen opened up, the image that was on the screen was exactly the image we were standing there looking at in real life. So the camera 4 years ago that was shooting outward and looking outside of the cave just so happens to be where I set this computer down. And I opened it up, and right away we went, oh my God,
wow.
This is the exact location where this was shot from. And then we pushed play, And now Dan always operated his own cameras, and it was so we see someone way in the distance up on a rock, and we figured, oh, that must be Felix. But then we heard him yell back in perfect English, and we said, no, that's Dan way over there, and he's operating the camera. And then Felix answered with his accent, and we said, oh, Felix is operating the camera. And then Dan comes running down the hill, and he runs right up to the camera, which we're looking at on this video screen, and starts talking to us. It was the most surreal moment I've ever had in production, where the lines between reality, past, present, and future, and all of that, we kept glancing off the computer screen to look up, because we were confused as to in what time zone is this happening, and where are we right now? And Dan started speaking to us through this technology, and it was really quite something I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, it's when we start working with things like technology and stuff, it's amazing to sort of see the magic that can really be opened up to. It's pretty amazing. That's a really great story, Mickey, and I'm sure there are plenty of other moments where you just sort of had to step back and just say, is this really happening?
All the time.
This is beyond, again, beyond coincidence, which sort of goes into the whole point, is that everything kind of happens for a reason, which is why things happen as they were, and why even right now we're here in this moment being able to share this story, because kind of what I said, Dan's story is a catalyst for the bigger story, for this shift in consciousness which is occurring, and it's just people becoming more aware. Consciousness is synonymous for awareness in a lot of ways, and it's more people being able to see that in so many ways. And I'll just mention this now for anybody who's interested. Daniel actually wrote an essay about the Mayan calendar in December 21st, 2012, and I'll post that into the show notes, and check that out, because that's something where you can actually read some of his own words, and I know there's a particular sort of theory that Dan talked about in that essay, and I actually haven't read it for myself, but that's something that or rather, Mickey, I'll just sort of let you feel is there something you would like to say, a message that you would like to say in relation to this film, perhaps another part of the story that you just want to add to?
Well, there's so much that
there's so much.
Film speaks for me directly, and everything that my life has become about, from every experience and everything that's happened for me in my life, and it's just a very deep honor for me to be working with Erin and her whole family, and to be in this synchronistic organism that has become our crew and our collective family now. And I've learned this a few times in my life. This project really exemplifies how accurate this notion is, and that is, when we're coming from a place of really pure intention and we're working together for an intention that has to do with bringing all of life together in a really positive way, and not from fear-based, not from greed or anything that causes the separation of humans or all of life for that matter. We're giving these clues that we're on the right path. It's really crumbs in the path. We're giving these clues by deja vu and coincidence and all these things that are sometimes really even hard to believe they're happening. When they happen once, you just go, wow, that was extraordinary that just happened. But when they happen all the time, like many times in a day, you start to say, what's going on here? There's something happening here that's really powerful, and we really can't ignore it. And that's been a great gift for me, because anytime any of my old human habits kick in of wanting to control something or wanting to fix something, I just sit back and I go, all I have to do is allow. Mm-hmm. It's a great metaphor for life. All I really have to do is to allow this to come through. It's not really me. It's so much bigger than me. I'm not really directing this project. I don't know what or who is, but I just have to be the steward of this, of the energy that's coming through me, as Erin is with her, as Ian is with him, and all the rest of the team, to allow this to come to life as one organism, as cells within the organism, to bear life to the whole, and remember that we're supported all the way through this, and magic happens when we're in that place.
Totally. And I think, again, for anybody who's listening with this, there is a very practical message that is being expressed here through the story. And like you said, it is being able to allow things to flow, to, be water, so to speak, and to just that process. There is, our higher selves, if you want to think about it that way, and it has this path sort of set ahead of us. And if we always have the free will to sort of go against it. So, like, Mickey, at any point you could use your free will and just say, you know what, like, I'm just going to leave town and screw this project. But no, like, you are aligned with that path and you're committed to it. And I think everybody has a role to play in this film in the same way that everybody has a role to play in their immediate life and in the lives of others. Now, I'd just like to get into one thing, because it's interesting. There's another hook to this film that I'd like to sort of set up. And again, so there's that sphere that Dan found in the Mayan site, and we thought it was a bone, but it turns out it's something very much more meaningful. But again, you have to wait till the film comes out to actually find out what that is. Now there was another part, and it had to actually do with Dan, his last words, because this is something me and Erin actually talked about. So Erin, do you want to just sort of set that up for us and tell us a little bit about that?
Well, as we were being told, the Mayan people that were guiding us on the return of the object, when we came to the discovery of what the object was, Felix was very close to Dan, and I had shared with him what Dan's last words were. Felix and I both, just our jaws dropped. We clenched our hands onto each other's backs, just like, what? And then it was an explosive moment for us that I think definitely the most life-changing moment I've ever had, because if you're not a believer, you will be when you
for real.
When you see the correlation between the object and Dan's last words, this is something to see. And
again, we were sort of talking about, like, Dan was fairly coherent up until those last couple days, but you said those last words at the time when he said them, you were just like, what, you had to, like, go out of the room and write it down, like. He
had been coherent. Nothing he said didn't make sense to me except the last words. So Dan, in the last 10 hours of his life, he did go in and out of, like, he would notice that I was there lying next to him, and he'd say, and he'd talk to me a little bit, and then he would go back into kind of a dream state where he was talking, and I was told this was how it was going to happen. And I'd kind of experienced something similar with my grandmother when I stayed with her during her last hours. And then he would see people in the room, but it was all it made perfect sense to me. He was talking about people that he really knew and loved, and he was seeing them in his mind, and he was discussing them, like our sister Nancy, Leticia, a woman that was very, very close to him since high school, and he was talking to them. And then when his last words came, it was the only thing that didn't make sense. So I knew there was something to it. And as soon as I knew that he had fully passed on and that I'd really held him and been there with him, and that my mom and I were both there on either side of him when he actually passed, and I just looked at her and I said, I'm sorry, I have to go write that. I have to go write what he just said down. I can't, I didn't want to just leave her, and I knew she was in shock, but I had to go and write it down. So I left the room and went and wrote it on a sticky pad, which I still have, a sticky note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll just say it now. Shout out to your mother. Shout out to your mother and Daniel's mother, Tanya, because I think she's a big part of this story too, and I know that we do see a fair amount of her in the film. So I'm sure once she gets a chance to listen to this episode, just on behalf of myself and to everybody who's listening, thank you for being Daniel's mother and for being a part of the story. I think that's very, very cool. So
that she's on a plane right now flying. So. she can't be listening, or else I know she would. She's
moment.
highly dedicated and an amazing mother. So yes, she would definitely, if not probably be calling in, but she's in the airwaves. So enjoying the full moon, I hope.
Absolutely, yeah. She's probably got a good view of it. So now there's another again sort of an interesting synchronicity, so to speak here, that I actually just became aware of earlier today, and this is sort of new news to Mickey as well, because I mean, you know, like I at this point, getting a chance to talk to you, Erin, getting a chance to talk to you, Mickey, I feel really attached to this project. I mean, I'm doing this for a purpose, and I want to be able to like help with the Indiegogo campaign as much as I can, and to actually like I didn't my donation to the Indiegogo campaign was using the promote feature on Facebook so that more people would be able to find out about this show. So for every, you know, I spent about $35 on promotions, but those $35, for those of you listening, let's follow through with it, you know, like that $35, and tell people, you know, that this is something Mickey talks about and Ian talks about. Like, tell even 10 people, and then tell those people to tell 10 people, and then suddenly you've done it. You like, that's it. And not only do they find out about the story, like, I mean, not only do they get a chance to donate, but they also find out about the story and they get excited about it. So that's a really cool thing.
What a simple and brilliant idea. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Monday, I'm going to put a big reach out on Facebook to ask people to help us if they can't or already have gone to the Indiegogo page to help us actually by promoting it in the way that you have. That's a really awesome idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so many ways to approach it, social media wise, and by all means, like I'm happy to help. Now what I was just gonna say here.
Yeah, we put out today. We put out a challenge to all of our current contributors, which numbers in just close to 1,000. And I'd love to put it out to anybody that's listening right now, which was we put the challenge out to our contributors that there's about 1,000 of them, and if you go by tens, if they all
power 10, right?
Yeah, the powers of 10. So if they all message 10 people for us and just say, you know, if they can contribute $10, each of the people, and then that those people will message 10 more, that's 100,000 people right there. Absolutely. And that would fully fund us. So we put out a challenge, sort of like we posed it as an experiment. And I'd love everyone to join us, because I think more than just fundraising, part of being involved in an Indiegogo campaign is the wonderful feeling of us all being able to do something together. And everyone that joins us, whether they go on, and you can contribute $1. You know, you can go on and you have to select a special feature, but you can contribute, you know, $2, $5, $10, $50. It's not the amount. It's that people are standing up and they want to be with us, and their contribution, you know, joins them with us, and we just become a bigger family, you know, together, the family that we're all becoming, and then we're all sharing in the message and the journey of making this film.
Yeah, and it's going to be really exciting to see this film start getting seen by people who might not really be too familiar with this whole consciousness shifting stuff, and then to be able to go through the film. And I mean, the film is going to be a very visceral experience for people watching it. Like, people are going to open up their hearts in the process. Like, people are going to have emotions that might have been sitting with them for quite some time are going to come to the surface, and they're going to be crying because they're both happy and yet sad at the same time. And that's going to be such a real thing for people to experience, and that's what we need more of. And that's the power of art. I mean, you know, for like, as a filmmaker, I've experienced this. I try to do this as much as I can, and that's exactly what I see happening with this story here. So, Mickey, good job, man. This is an excellent project. And I think you are the right person to be behind it. You know, like, again, like, can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine someone else doing it? Like, no, of course it's going to be Mickey. So.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I feel very, very honored and very connected with the project and the entire team. Everyone who's working on this right now. It's just really. I have a team of veterans who they're all reporting to me every day. You know, it's like they've all worked on projects for years and a lot of very big projects, but every one of them are saying, I've never experienced anything like this energy and the way everyone's, you know, just so inspired. And I almost have to say at night, turn off the computers, guys. Get some sleep. Everyone's just like, just plowing through this footage, and we're getting to know Dan so well. I never had a chance to meet him in the flesh, but I feel like I know him so well, like we're friends. I'm constantly closing my eyes and just saying, thank you, Dan. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for giving us this purpose and this vehicle to really reach our human family. And that's the way we all feel about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, just kind of referring back to my own experience with the film I did, If I Should Fall, like that was the thing that people said after watching that film. They felt that they knew Mark, and that's what people are going to get when they go through this film. Like, you're going to go through this film and you're going to come out of it and you're going to feel like Dan was that friend of yours. Like, he was your friend, and you knew him. And you're going to experience that through the film, and that's totally an awesome thing. So now, what I was going to say, the synchronicity, because I sort of segued myself and started talking about the Indiegogo stuff. What I was going to say, it's just an interesting synchronicity that I found out about. After Dan passed away, he was actually buried in a cemetery in Victoria, off of in British Columbia, and first of all, he had a green burial, meaning they shrouded him in cloth and they buried him, and he was in an unmarked plot out in the forest. So, and that was something very particular that, meant something to him to be able to be buried in the forest, obviously. But the interesting thing that I want to mention here is that Dan is actually buried in the same cemetery as my grandfather. And for me, even on the last show, literally on the last show, I mentioned something specific about how I'm very connected to my grandfather, and he was very much a big influence for me. And even right now, in the same way Dan is listening to the show, I feel like my grandfather's listening to the show. And then in that sense, I can just imagine Dan and my grandfather right now just being oh, cool, that's, I'm almost getting a little emotional talking about it, to be honest, right now. But that was just something that really meant something to me, to just be wow, again, is that coincidence, or
that's amazing.
There's just something.
Well, and if I can just mention that what you're experiencing is something that we experienced the day we went to bury Dan. We went in to discuss with the grave, the office that the burial ground is in, and they said, "Are these your relatives?" And Dan's great grandfather is buried there too, and we didn't even know it. So it's in the same. I mean, Dan is not inside that burial ground; he's in the sort of greenbelt forest just behind it, and with a green burial, you're not allowed, like you had said, you're not allowed to mark a grave. It's supposed to be just that you return to nature, and so the trees and everything just kind of grow back over the plot. Yeah. But so there you go, another interconnectedness.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's pretty cool. Now, I'll just sort of plant this idea now. Mickey, you probably heard, every show we do a group meditation. Would you be interested in leading our group meditation this show?
I would love to, sure.
Yeah? Okay, cool. You're not too busy at the movie theater and stuff like that? Are you going to be able to sit down and meditate where you are in your ends?
Well, that, is the gift of meditation, is you should be able to do it anywhere.
As long as you're not driving. So.
I've been lucky enough to be around when Mickey's led a meditation, and it was definitely one of my very favorite moments. He's a very good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this something we do right now on the show?
Well, we'll do it in about 10 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So yeah. No, I think that'd be really cool. So now, okay, just as we sort of move things a little bit forward here, what I'd actually like to be able to sort of do with the last little bit of the show, because this show, I mean, we could literally talk about this as long as we wanted to, so to speak. But what I'd actually like to do is, after the meditation, I'd like to be able to give the people listening to the show a chance to call in, and we may have Erin and Mickey still with us. I don't know. I haven't fully decided. But what I'd like to be able to do, I'd like to be able to ask the community the question of what unity and interconnectedness means to them. And I think that's something that, everybody's sort of got their own perspective on it, which is a very interesting thing. So, but that is the theme that I feel is just like resonating through this entire episode. So I think that would be just something really cool because, Dan had his own way of explaining the interconnectedness. Like me and Erin were talking, one of his favorite books is The Sacred Balance by David Suzuki. And Dan was very interested in the science side, and he saw that. He saw the science of the interconnectedness. The fact that the trees growing up out of the ground are like the same trees in the veins in our arm, and the whole microcosm, macrocosm, it's all one and the same, and the ripples that we can create even right now at this moment will like ripple out like beyond like what we can even perceive at this moment. So for the people listening, just keep that in mind, and you can call into Skype. You can call into the show using Skype the way you normally would. So on the Blog Talk Show page, scroll up to the top and you'll see a Skype icon next to the call host number. And press that, and then you'll be able to get into our queue. And also, if you want, you can call in with a regular phone. So you can either call in now or just wait until we get through the meditation. But again, just sort of think about, what does unity mean to you? What does interconnectedness mean to you? I think that would just sort of be an interesting thing to be able to get other people's voices in this. Because I think, that's what, as much as, like I said, as much as this is Dan's story, it's what we do with it. How do we continue Dan's story? Because we are that story. This is a story about the human experience and the whole coming into awareness. So I think that's a really cool thing. Now, before we move into the meditation, Mickey or Erin, what else do you feel that there is to Dan that people should know about, or that you would just like to be able to share with them? Whether it be either maybe like a funny story, like I think actually that might be a good question. Like, Erin, do you have maybe like a funny story either from your childhood between you and Dan that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, okay. I mean, the first funny thing I can think of that comes off the top of my head is not necessarily from our early 20s, where Dan was, he was in and this was actually caught on film. He was just learning to be an English teacher in Taiwan, and he was very nervous and very sweet. And so he was working with a classroom full of 3-year-olds, and he was trying to get them to be more involved in the class. So he instead of, because they were all sitting in a circle, and he wanted to get them to be interactive, so he was sort of doing some kind of a song, and he wanted them to all jump around the room. And there was this moment, and I hope this can be pictured because, you can't see it, but there was this moment where he's jumping and he's holding this little 3-year-old in his arms, and as he's jumping, his bum hits the 3-year-old behind him, and it kind of caused a domino effect. Now, no one was hurt, but just catching that on film and just seeing him do the recovery of, he immediately trying to, put down the one child he's holding and go comfort the other child, and just, it was a great moment to witness.
Yeah, that's a funny story, and I think it's those little quirky moments that will always sort of be with us that we hold on to and cherish. So now Mickey, is there anything that you feel that you would like to mention in regards to who was Dan? What do people need to know about him or this film?
Say that again. Who was?
Yeah. Just who is Dan? Without people
Dan,
having seen.
The line.
Yeah, and I imagine Mickey's getting to know him in a whole new way. So I'm curious too.
So who is Dan?
Well, Dan was an extraordinary young man, and he still is in many ways, because we really do carry on the legacy for each other. And when I was listening to the show earlier, and it was mentioned that we can inherit burdens in a certain way. The flip side of that is also, Dan has left a gift, and it's really a purpose for so many people that will become a purpose for millions of people. And so, more than it is really a burden, it's been this incredible legacy and purpose, reason to live really for so many people, to really focus everything that we've been working so hard on, to now put all of our love and energy into one project that will clearly be more than this film. It's going to be a narrative film, and and many other things that will spin from this. I'm certain of that. But who Dan was really a reflection of all of us, the essence of really what we are. It was a young man who'd made a choice not to get caught up in all of the distractions of life and just become the typical citizen that's doing, working on just the maintenance of their life and barely getting by, and focused his energy and his attention, his valuable attention, on what matters most, and did a miraculous job at staying focused on that and dedicating his life to exploring that. And, for a lot of us, we have peak moments, where we'll get so caught up in life and consumerism and everything that we think is important, appearance and all of this. And then we have peak moments where something just shakes us out of that. Mine happened center of the Rebel Trade Center, something that big for me to go, hey, wait a second, what's really important now in life? And we all have those moments, and we start to feel unified with all that is. There's very few experiences in this human experience that there's a commonality that bonds us all. And when we have these kind of unified mystic experiences, we all come out of it with the same story. No matter what language we speak, we all come out of it saying everything was perfect and divine, and we're all connected, and we start to realize that nothing has ever happened to us, that everything has happened for us, that we're right on our path, that it's never too late. All these great, incredible teachings come to us from that experience. And Dan was a very curious young man who stayed in that zone as much as he could, and that is a really big thing to do. And not only did he stay in that zone, but he filmed it, which almost no one does, and which is why what we have in value, media-wise, is so epic. Because he actually just kept the cameras rolling to see, let's film this process of evolution. Let's see what people, let's spy on their behavior and my behavior, and let's really look at the inner workings of this human organism to discover really, and to remember really, who and what we are and why we've come here together. And I really respect him for that and love him for that.
Oh, very nice. So I think, so, with what you said, like this experience, like some of the common terms come to mind, we say namaste, the divine light within me honors and respects and sees the light within you, which is something more people are sort of working into the vernacular and not only saying it, but actually meaning it. And we also have other terms, like maybe not everyone's familiar with this, but like Ubuntu, which is a saying, and it means like I am because you are. And we have like the other term, which is Ila Kash Ala Ken, which more people are hearing as well. Like it's just like I am another you, and these. And
that's a Mayan term.
Exactly. That's a cool thing.
That's going to be used in this movie most definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, these are terms that have existed throughout culture, and again, like what we're bringing to the surface is not new. It's this process of remembering what we are, and it is this incredibly divine experience. So I think with that said, I feel very comfortable to be able to move into the meditation right now. For anybody, again, who's thinking about calling in, please feel free to do so, and let's do that. Like as a community, let's work together to define what does unity, what does interconnectedness mean to each of us individually, because each of us has a piece of the puzzle, right? And as we begin to put these pieces of the puzzle together, it begins to create a bigger picture. So that's kind of what we're doing here today. So now,
for us to hear what people think.
And it gives us a chance to listen, right? We want to be able to listen with the intent to understand. So it'll be more of that listening practice as well. So now, Mickey, the way how we do this meditation, it's quite simple. We'll leave the microphone to you, and then you'll do your thing, and we'll have an audio track that we will play. So what you'll be doing, you'll be leading us up, walking us, getting us comfortable, saying whatever you need to say, whatever your heart tells you to say. And then when you're ready, just tell me to cue the music. Just say, Brendon, cue the music. And then I'll play that, and then that plays for a little bit. And then we'll bring you back onto the air as the music fades out to bring people back. And then we'll continue the conversation from there. So does Is that okay? Any questions?
Absolutely. And give me a little bit of how long.
Yeah, I'll be able to communicate with you. So you'll
okay, good. And during the musical part, do you want me to keep guiding it through there, or we go silent for that?
It will be silent. Yeah, it will be silent for that part. So yeah. Okay. But yeah, no, I think, like I said, this episode, out of all the Paradigm Shift episodes that we've done up to this point, because each one sort of has a different vibe to it. Like this one is really something special. So this meditation is really going to be something special. So again, to everybody listening to this, just open your heart and allow the process to unfold. So Erin, I'm going to mute your microphone and then we'll bring you back onto the air after the meditation. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to mute you for now. So, Mickey, I'm going to mute myself, and then it's just going to be you. And again, just say, Brendon, play the music, and then we'll go from there. So, all good?
Okay. You got it. Thank you.
All right.
So, everyone who's present at this moment, listening to this broadcast, let's close our eyes, wherever you are, unless you're driving, please. Close your eyes. And take some deep breaths. And bring all of your attention, your focus, to your breath. Pay close attention to the texture of your breath, how your breath feels as it's entering and exiting your body. And we remind ourselves that as we do this, that the original root word of meaning of breath is spirit, that we're breathing in spirit at this moment. And it doesn't matter where you are with your meditation practice. There's really no outcome to achieve in this. We're just relaxing here. Do it in your own way. Keeping focused on the breath. And just being aware of the busy mind, the mind that starts to evaluate even this moment right now. Perhaps judge me, yourself, consider time, what time is it, all of that. We're going to let that go right now. You have time for this. This is for you. Now we're going to draw our attention being our most valuable commodity, really. Thing that advertisers pay trillions of dollars a year to capture our attention. So we're going to do this to become masters of our attention, where we focus our attention like the rudder of a ship. It determines the outcome, what continent we land on. So we're going to get our ship back on course here by focusing our attention to the cells of our bodies. The 100 trillion plus cells within our bodies, these little orbs, these little circles. Breathing life. Imagining all these hundreds of trillions of cells actually breathing themselves, breathing. Now, these cells have come into your body to actually give you life. And as you've seen under a microscope, they often cling to each other and to the sides, and they stop flowing because we've lost contact with the command of our life and the direction of our life. We get confused and scattered with what we think we need to be doing and what society tells us we need to be doing, and we fall off of our path, our birthright path. When we line up with that, the cells begin to move in the direction of our life. That's why they came into to your body. So we're breathing that life and that spirit and reconnecting with the reason that you're alive in this moment right now, the gratitude for your life in this moment right now. As you're breathing into these cells of your body, you imagine these cells lighting up. Hundreds of trillions of cells lighting up, igniting, coming to life simply because you're paying attention to them right now. You thought you forgot about them. Breathing that new life of your ancient and infinite purpose, filling these cells, spark to life, illuminate like grids of cities, and a city turning on one block at a time, lighting up your whole body, and vibrating with a very powerful and important frequency of yes. Not maybe, not tomorrow, but yes, right now. Saying yes to your life, yes to your reason, yes to who you are, exactly who you are. Nothing to fix, nowhere to get, no other person to be but you right now. Perfect divine instrument that you are. Breathe into that knowing and allow whatever you're inspired to remember through this meditation to come to you. And we reconnect with the intention that Dan set out for years ago, that he lived for, and that he's died for, and that he's living again for, through all of us and through this movie and through this project. To reunite our human family, first from the inside out, reuniting ourselves with ourselves, with the source that is our life, the purpose that is our life, and letting a ripple effect and exponentially reconnect with every other human on this planet at this time that ever has been, that ever will be. Moving that power of yes to life. No fear, just yes. We breathe into that incredible power. May all your dreams come true. Whenever you're ready, Brendon.
So just take this moment to reconnect with your breath again. It's a nice, simple, gentle inhale. Mickey, you can continue if you'd like, just to ease us out of this.
Okay, so from in that beautiful space that you've created for yourself right now, coming back into your body, fully back into your body, in deep gratitude for all of the functions of your body, just being able to breathe, for the gift of your life, and for this show that allows us, through media, through all the technology that all the genius humans have created that allow us to be connected, sending gratitude to the airwaves, to all of the other people that are part of this right now, being called here in this moment to come together, as we are doing all over the world right now in so many different ways, coming together. Sending gratitude to our host, Brendon. Thank you so much for creating the space for us to be here, for Erin and I to be there. Erin, my sister, thank you so much for all of the gifts that you've been bringing in all of our lives since we met many months ago.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Now, for that meditation, I was actually I had my hands over my chest for that meditation. You know, really just sort of allowing myself to focus on the heart for that one. And the singing bowl that was used in that was actually tuned with the heart chakra. So if you felt it in the heart, that's a good reason. That means yours is still beating and you're still with us. So very cool. All right. So thank you, Mickey, for helping guide us with that meditation. That was really something special there. So again, to everybody who's been listening to the show so far, if you have not yet, please consider donating to the Indiegogo campaign for the Be Brave film. So again, indiegogo.com/be-brave or facebook.com/bebravemovie. And I'm sure you guys will actually end up getting like a separate website for the film up at some point. And if you happen to be listening to the show in the future, I would imagine that once the Indiegogo campaign ends, which ends very soon, within the next 5 days, I believe, I'm sure there will still be other ways to contribute to the project. So it's an ongoing thing. So just keep an eye on it, and it's really something to look forward to. And Mickey, I'll just say it now. You know, it's really cool to be able to connect with you on air, and if there's any other ways that I can help in being able to promote this film, please let me know, and I would love to be able to collaborate with yourself and some of the other people at the Elevate team in the future to continue to be able to tell this story, to continue to be able to document this evolution in consciousness, which is constantly ongoing. So thank you again
like you said earlier about Be Brave, it's already done.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So yeah. Awesome. All right. So again, guys, check that out, and we'll bring Erin back onto the show now. So Erin, if you're ready, we're going to bring you back on. Hello. Hey, Erin.
Hi.
Hi, Erin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Cool. That was a good meditation. You know, maybe I'm not the only one who sort of felt this, but I actually there was a moment, you know, sitting in my chair where I actually just sort of imagined like Dan standing next to me and just kind of putting his hand on my shoulder, sort of thing, you know, and then to be honest, like on one side there's Dan, and on the other side there's my grandfather. So you know, it's just kind of really something special there. So that was awesome. So guys, again,
you're not the first person to say they felt Dan standing next to them or behind them with his hand on their shoulder. That makes a lot of sense.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right. So now at this point, I would like to be able to open it up to some of the callers who have been listening to the show so far to be able to do that as a team. And Mickey and Erin, are you guys okay to stay on for the rest of the show? Because I'm sure we could sort of get some more ideas bounced around. Is that cool with you?
I'm happy to stay on as long as I can. I have a little function here after this premiere of this film, and I'm not exactly sure when they're going to pull me away, but I'm here with you fully.
All right, so we got about 13 minutes left in the show.
Okay. I'm sure I can do that.
13 is the magic number, folks. Just a little bit of side information. I mean, 2012 was the big thing, but like 13 is the big, like that's no coincidence that 2012 hyped up, and then here we are in 2013, because like 13 is like, you know, sort of hidden information, the snake holder, the 13th zodiac. Like it is the 12 points around the circle of the calendar, of the clock, and then the 13 is the unity point in the middle, and that's what we are. So keep that in mind.
Now.
Oh, okay. Well, channeling the oneness, that is all of us. So, yeah. Very cool.
If I can just say, there has been people contributing to Indiegogo. I just clicked on and saw, and I just want to say thank you. There's obviously some listeners going on right now and contributing. So, you know, thank you very much to those listeners.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, there's a good like 1,000+ people who will get this show out to them as well, and even more in the future. So it's my pleasure to be able to help in this, because again, you know, like this is something that by doing this, like we're helping people who we haven't even met yet, just by simply being able to get this story out to them and sharing that experience. So very cool stuff. All right, guys. So now let's do that. Let's move into a chance to bring some other callers on the air. So again, if you would like to get on the air, what we're asking you is, what does unity, what does interconnectedness mean to you? So let's try and sort of approach that as a team and get some ideas rolling there. So I think, you know, cooperation is the big thing that we have to keep in mind, being able to have the peace and happiness and all that, and also the forgiveness and being able to work together. So I mean, those are just some ideas off the top of my head. So again, what does unity, what does interconnectedness mean to you? So right now we do have a couple callers in the queue, so we're gonna bring on actually coincidentally the first caller that I'm gonna bring on to the air, his name is Daniel as well, so we'll roll with that one since it is sitting right in front of me. So Daniel, who's in the queue right now, if you're ready, we're gonna bring on the air. So here we go. Hello, Daniel. Can you hear us? Hello, Daniel. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Okay, there he is, Dan. All right, cool. So, Daniel, first of all, just where are you calling from, and then what does interconnectedness mean to you?
Well, am I coming in clear?
You are. You're coming in crystal clear.
Okay, bingo. Well, I'm Daniel. I'm from planet Earth, and I'm from the universe. Let's make that clear. Yeah, I really want to talk about what I've been feeling, and I had a really, really, really powerful awakening, well, pretty much 2 or 3 hours ago, and it was this powerful feeling of just feeling my body, and I guess feeling my cells and communicating with them. So how much time do you have left? 13 minutes or so?
Yeah. I mean, for this one, I mean, just to be able to like answer the question, like, what does unity mean to you? We'll try and keep it short, just so we can bring on a couple more people. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I feel you on that, but a very powerful insight that I really feel can give a lot of insight into what people are feeling right now.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wrote it down because I experienced it like a dream. I've been paying attention to your dream logs and
cool. Thanks.
integrating, you know, dream awareness into my awareness and all of that. So I'm just going to read this as I wrote it down to be out there, just so people can understand what they're feeling as I'm feeling it. So here it is. I have a reason to believe that I have achieved a Kundalini awakening and a level of awareness of the conscious, and understand that what this means and entails and just how significant this is. I've been inspired to write down my dreams and to reclaim my astral dream time experience and life. It's a very easy mistake to disregard your dreams and the potential of life-changing understanding that entails. Maybe fear, maybe it's lack of care, maybe it's laziness. However, understand your dreams are a whole other world that you're totally foregoing by giving into habits and routines that no longer serve you. I rant. I'm sure you'll appreciate it later. So, anyways, I've been writing down my dreams and cultivating a habit of awareness and lucidity, as well as reality checking regularly. So I've been trying to integrate a dreamlike awareness into my everyday life, and as if, say, I have a water bottle, and how salt, like, as if I was in a lucid dream, if I stopped paying attention to it, it would disappear. Just treating my life like that and just really paying attention to what truly benefits my well-being and the world and my highest good. And so, let's see, where am I? Let's see.
Well, I think
no,
what
no,
you
no,
I go ahead. I was just gonna say for a second here, you know, kind of tying back this with the theme of unity. I mean, being able to like create union between our awareness and our waking life and our dream life. I think that is an important part of the experience, and even the idea of like merging creating unity between like the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of our brain. And there's just some ideas that come to me. But go ahead, Daniel. You're
okay. I'm going to get as much of this information out there as quickly as possible. So take it for what you will. You can listen to it later. So, okay, by focusing on something, you are simultaneously creating and becoming what you are focusing upon in your consciousness, your physical body, and your dream world and experience. Furthermore, how you allocate this energy directly influences every part of your physical existence, physiologically, mentally, socially, and emotionally. It is true that we do not know how influential our focus is on the fabric of existence. Quantum science has only scratched the surface, and it knows it. So I was meditating, trying to cultivate a strong sense of awareness of where I was and what I was doing, and where I was in my body and or dreaming, whether I was in my body or dreaming. And I focused on the objects around me and just really try to have a really, really strong awareness of just them being there and experiencing the objects. And then I realized I wasn't focusing enough on my body to be truly aware, and then I started to get this really powerful and familiar tingling sensation all around my body. And I focused on my heart, and the energy just sort of culminated at my heart. And I asked myself, and I pretty much like, all right, I told my heart, I love you. And then all of a sudden my heart, I swear to God, it told me it loved me back. And then I was a little bit surprised at this, and I didn't want to, lose my awareness, so I tried to maintain awareness. And then I, let's see, where am I? So let's see, yeah, tingling sensation. Let's see. Okay.
Now, Daniel, we only got a couple minutes left
okay,
here
so pretty
in
much,
the show.
Pretty much, I pretty much, wherever I allocated my awareness and focus, I immediately got a direct vibratory tingling response from my cells, and I asked myself questions, and they responded with yes. Mm-hmm. They told me yes, and I feel like this has a lot to say about what we've been experiencing, and just learn to say yes and know that your body is completely conscious and you are a part of your body and it lives on its own. So you are your body, but you are so much more than your body. So
cool.
Take that for what you will. That's what I've been experiencing. So
right on, man. Well, thanks. I do appreciate that, and I think that does fit in with the idea of unity, being able to like define unity within ourselves and being able to like communicate with ourselves, with like our body is constantly speaking to us, but our monkey mind constantly like gets in the way. So being able to like open ourselves up to like the language of our own heart, I think is an important thing. So Daniel, thanks for calling in. I do appreciate it, and I'm sure kind of some stuff you were talking about there, some stuff we can get into a little bit more in detail on a future episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. So appreciate you calling in, man. And
I'm sure I sound nuts, but this is something I've been legitimately experiencing. So I just wanted to put that out there so people won't, not know about this stuff that's really crucial to this entire movement. So.
Absolutely, man. Well, your story is my story, so thanks for calling in, dude. All right, okay. Namaste, Daniel. Cheers. All right, so that was Daniel calling into the show and just talking about that experience, which does tie into unity. And as we get into the last couple of minutes of the show, I think one thing to sort of what Daniel was talking about, the idea of dreaming, for anybody listening to the show, I just sort of have this feeling, and like for those of you who've been noticing, I've been putting up dream video logs quite recently and trying to get more into dream exploration. It'll be very interesting to see what I dream about tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if I have some sort of interaction with Dan in the dream world, but I mean, I can't hold any expectations, but that would be quite interesting. So who knows, maybe some of the callers out there and the people listening to this will have their own experiences, and if you do, feel free to leave a comment about it. So with that said, Mickey, thank you for being on the show, though he is not on the air with us right now. Obviously, he had to get going. So thank you again, Mickey of Elevate Studios, for being on the show. And Erin, thank you as well for being on the show. This means an incredible amount, not only to me, but to the people who have been listening to the show and who are inspired by your bravery. Again, going back to this whole theme, bringing back the full circle of be brave. Like, this is about Daniel being brave. This is about you being brave, being able to continue his story. And this is about us being brave and being able to live authentically the life that we want and choose to live. So any last words that you would like to share, Erin, before we wrap this up here?
Well, I just really want to thank you for having me on, and thank everyone who's listening. And I'm so glad that Ian and Mickey were able to join us, and it was just a wonderful way to spend the evening. So thank you very much, and I really invite everyone to become a part of Be Brave. We just love to have everyone join us.
Very cool, very cool. All right, guys, so just to sort of wrap up the show here, just a couple of reminders. You can add me personally on Facebook. I am Brendon, a.k.a. Skull Babylon, so you can add me on Facebook at facebook.com/SkullBabylon, and you can check out my YouTube at youtube.com/SkullBabylon, and go to ParadigmShiftCentral.com. That has links to a bunch of the videos that I've been putting up, and also Facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio as well. And if you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the future production of other Paradigm Shift related media content, feel free to donate to Paradigm Shift. Though at this point, I mean, donate what you have to Indiegogo, to the Be Brave account at Indiegogo.com/be-brave. And then if you have any extra money sitting on the side, feel free to donate to Paradigm Shift. That's not something that we're just necessarily using to pay bills, but it's rather something that we're putting right back into the community to help create more consciousness shifting content for you listening out there. So keep doing what you need to do, and that's pretty much it. There may be I guess we'll do that. I'll set up an after party as per usual for this episode. So for anybody listening to the show, feel free to check out the after party, and we'll put that up in the live chat info, and is also on the Facebook page again. So thank you everyone who has been listening to this, and check out Be Brave. Go watch the trailer, go share it with your friends, help be a part of this project, and help be that change that you want to see in the world. And let's do that. Let's continue Daniel's story through the love that we carry with us every single day, and that we share with the people closest to us. So Erin, again, thank you for being on the show, and I'm just going to close out with the outro music. So again, to everybody listening, I am another you. So namaste and take care. We'll see you in the future.